So a very good morning to everyone and wishing you a very happy new year. So let's get started. Uh, in the previous video, we studied about different types of crude oil and their classification and their basics. So the purpose of making this series was to give you all a basic understanding of refinery. So now that we have understood the basics of crude oil, let's move further. So the refinery configuration will always be dependent on the type of crude oil it is processing. So that's why we understood the type of crude oil and what are the properties of crude oil and etc. So now say for example we are processing a crude oil whose acidic number is very high, that is a very high TAN. So then the refinery will have the fractionators columns which are very much corrosion resistant because the high acidity will cause the units to degrade. So the refinery units is made in such a way that it is highly corrosion resistance. And if in other case, let us say for example we are processing a paraffinic crude, meaning which has lot of paraffins in it, so the byproduct is wax, and wax gets deposited at the bottom of the tank. So we should also take care that what we will be doing with that wax. And if we are processing any asphaltic kind of crude, then coke is the byproduct. So we should see that how we are processing coke, and what are the units we'll be processing the coke in, and how we will refining the coke and sending it into the petrochemical unit, etc. So the final rule is the refinery configuration will be decided depending on the type of crude oil it is processing. So the units will differ as per the crude oil coming into it. This was the basic. So now let us go through the crude oil distillation unit. So what is crude oil distillation unit? So in normal words, what is crude oil distillation unit? Crude oil distillation unit is the unit that distills the crude oil into various fractions of boiling point ranges. Each of them are further processed in the further refinery unit, meaning there are different columns in which the crude oil is being processed, and it is separated as per their boiling point. So how it's done, let's see. See, crude oil coming from any field or any unit is first of all transferred into a tank, and then it is passed through heat exchanger at the temperature 120 to 130 degrees Celsius. That is, it is heated previously, preheated. Then it comes into a desalter. Why it is coming to a desalter? The purpose is to remove the salts in the oil, because if the salts are still remain mixed in the crude oil, it can cause the different columns of the refinery to corrode, and later on it can cause a lot of problems in the refining process. So in the desalter, the calcium, magnesium and some metals are also removed. And also moreover, if the salts are contained in the crude oil and not removed prior, they can cause the catalyst in the columns later to finish away. I mean, they eat up the catalyst very fast, these metals and salts. So that's why the desalter unit is kept initially. So after that, after desalting the crude oil, it is again passed through a high temperature of 180 to 200 degrees Celsius. And then once the crude oil is this much stabilized, then the crude oil is passed to a pre-fractionator column. So I will tell you the purpose of fractionator column a bit later. So then once the heated crude oil comes into the pre-fractionator column, the vapor and the lighter component of that crude oil, say for example fuel gas that is C1, C2, plus some part of naphtha, plus some part of LPG vapors converts into vapor, and is collected from the top, and then the heavier part settles at the bottom, and this is a basic pre-fractionator, so that the high density component settles at the bottom and then come to the furnace, and then after coming to the furnace it is further heated to the temperature of 350 to 360 degrees Celsius, and then it comes to the main fractionator column, that is a distillator column, so that now the different components are separated as per their boiling point. So what was the purpose of using this pre-fractionator column? The purpose was to reduce load on furnace and main fractionator column, so that some part of crude oil is already processed before. So this was a basic flow diagram how the crude oil is getting distilled. So let us now go into a bit of deep into it, that what are the products from pre-fractionator and main fractionator column. Okay, comes into pre-fractionator column. It is divided into two parts. Like one is IBP naphtha, that is lighter and unstabilized naphtha, fuel gas and LPG. So this component, this lighter component goes into a stabilizer column, meaning here the naphtha is stabilized. So what is unstabilized naphtha? The unstabilized naphtha is the naphtha in which high proportion of lighter naphtha or fuel gas or butane or LPG is dissolved. So our aim and purpose is to make it stabilize. So that naphtha is sent into a stabilized column, and then the lighter portion gets separated into fuel gas and LPG, and the stabilized naphtha comes from the bottom of the stabilizer to a separation unit or a stripper unit, in which the naphtha is stripped to a lighter naphtha and heavier naphtha. So till here naphtha's work is done. So then we move to separate these fuel gas and these LPG components and lighter components. So coming further, so this fuel gas plus LPG and lighter portion and naphtha, this goes into a de-ethanizer column, meaning we are the motive is to separate fuel gas and LPG into different components. So here these two things are heated separately, and then they get separated into fuel gas and LPG. So now the refinery which contain asphalting unit, so in those refinery, this LPG is again sent to depropanizer unit, which convert into propane and butane goes to LPG, and this propane goes to DL asphalting unit. So this process stopped till here in the refinery in which doesn't contain asphalting unit. So this till now work of fuel gas and LPG and butane are also completed. So now let us come to the heavier products of pre-fractionator column. So the heavier products of pre-fractionator column here they come to the main fractionator column. So in this main fractionator column, the heavier component is heated, and this is separated into different boiling ranges, which vary as per the temperature. So this is then it's separated into kerosene, ATF, lighter gas oil, heavier gas oil, and reduced or residue crude oil. So in this also few traces of naphtha is also remained. Then it goes into again into naphtha stripper, converts into heavy naphtha and lighter naphtha, So now we have also what products we have in the end. So let us see. So the products we have are here. So the products we have are fuel gas, which comprises of C1 and C2 mostly. Then we have LPG, C3 and C4. Another we have naphtha, heavy naphtha and light naphtha, which consist of C5 till the temperature 140 degrees Celsius. Then we have kerosene. Kerosene the kerosene is divided into two parts. One till the boiling range of 140 to 270 and another ATF from 140 to 240 degree Celsius. So why this is done? See, ATF, we take ATF as a bit lighter component of kerosene, because this ATF is turbine fuel which is used in aircraft. So the reason behind this is the aircraft is flown at a very high height, and at that height there are chances that this fuel is this fuel freezes. So if the fuel is light, the chances of freezing are low. So that's why this ATF is kept between 140 to 240 degrees Celsius. Then after kerosene, the component is light gas oil, which whose boiling range is 240 till 270 degrees Celsius. Then after that, heavy gas oil from 340 to 365 degrees Celsius, and then greater than 365 is the residue, that is heavy crude oil, which comprises of around 50% to 25% of the initial crude oil being processed into the refinery. So see, we are seeing that only half of the crude oil is converted into the meaningful component. So further, this units for treating residue are also made, and this 50% is generally for the heavy crude oil, and then it lowers as the crude oil heaviness reduces and it comes to the lighter crude oil. So this was a basic overview that how crude